from the people. Sahara love the masses. Sahara.
Thank you for tuning into Sahara TV. Our next guest is going to be Mr. Cecil Ibegbu, a counterterrorism expert who's going to be speaking with us about Boko Haram and the 2015 elections. Good morning, how are you?
And thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you explain to us the origins of Boko Haram and some of the main factors that have led to the creation?
Well, Boko Haram over the years have really started probably around 2005. There were a lot of indications from Al-Qaeda as at that time really trying to infiltrate Nigeria and establish a caliphate establishment. Unfortunately, all of the issues as at that time was not really addressed by the Nigerian government. Now, you also have some elements of Muslim fundamentalists in Nigeria. You have the Kanuri, you have the Fulani people. You also, the election of 2009, really, 1999, excuse me, exacerbated Boko Haram issue because then political figures started using political thugs for the benefit of winning elections. You talk about states like Zamfara State establishing organizations that are Muslim inclined that really wanted to establish the Sharia law as a base. You have Borno State, Bauchi State, all of those states, and the federal government within that era was Obasanjo. He did not really address that issue. Now, you fast forward it to 2009 election. There were pronouncements by most of the candidates that really meant that they wanted to foment violence. Unfortunately, with all of that, brought in the fundamentalist groups within Nigeria to address it as a political issue. And once that triggered, the elements within the international community that are also inclined as fundamentalists as well joined the cause to fight in Nigeria. That's really what exacerbated and brought it to the level that it is today. And when it first started, Nigeria made a lot of miscalculations. You know, they established the Counterterrorism Agency within the National Security Advisor's Office in Nigeria with only a 4-man workforce under General Bello. All of these things were inadequate. General Bello, on his part, addressed it as simply a small counterterrorism issue that can be wished away, and at some point it's no longer an issue. They failed to build capacity. Because they failed to build capacity, Boko Haram began to recruit. At some point, because they were really losing ground, they started using the military. The introduction of the military escalated the whole issue because they weren't treating it as a counterterrorism insurgency issue. They started upfront treating it as an insurgency issue with a lot more force that's actually needed. And that brought it to the escalated point that it is today.
So you mentioned kind of those dynamics which have led to its creation, and you emphasized the Nigerian military's role in kind of exacerbating issues. But other than military force, what political or economic action do you think needs to be taken to eliminate the Boko Haram threat? So in addition to those military topics that you mentioned.
Well, a lot of things have to be done. At the moment, I wrote a couple of efforts a couple of months ago, and my calculation is this. First, Nigerian government has to fight its way out of its mess. There's no longer a situation where they have to negotiate its way out of it. It's not going to be a political situation. It does not matter who the president of Nigeria is. There will be a Boko Haram until they fight its way out of it and then get their house in order. But unfortunately, the unfortunate thing out of the whole thing is this. The initial facets of Boko Haram that started in 2009 that had Nigerian basis and political structure in mind are no longer the Boko Haram that you know today. The Boko Haram that you know today are more internationalized. They have a much more agenda broader agenda in scope that really targets gaining acquisition of land, gaining areas that they can call the caliphate and carving out their own state. So the dynamics and the motives have already changed as well, and it's beyond the Nigerian globe of what they can contain internally without really looking out to include all the external factors to be able to bring it to bear.
So how likely do you think it is that Boko Haram will carry out a violence during this election period, and how do you think that Boko Haram is playing into the overall impact and management of the elections this coming February?
Well, Boko Haram is already winning in a lot of ways. They've already restructured the approach to the election. It's very likely this election, by all indications, is the most important election that Nigeria will ever have. If Nigeria fails to go through this election and maintain its structure, even as dysfunctional as it is, and the lost lands that they've already lost, it will be a much more disappointing and a much more ramifications for Nigeria than anything else. So for Nigeria to really maintain its existence, it must carry out this election, and it must be peaceful, and it must move to the next level of either the continuation of the present president or the new president coming in on a peaceful move to really guarantee a successful build going forward.
Army commanders yesterday sent Sahara reporters a letter condemning both President Jonathan and the military's response to the insurgency crisis in the Northeast. Do you think that these letters will have any kind of tangible effect or impact on the country's counterinsurgency tactics and policies?
Well, I'll tell you this. The president cannot fight a war for the military. The military, to some extent, have to be motivated. They also have to be in a position that they can really have the interests of Nigeria at heart and fight with their mind and might, with pride for Nigeria. That is not happening. If you go back to Nigerian budgets from 2009, 2008 to present, and see the amount of allocation that's budgeted for the military, and then you go back and really try to begin to diversify and see exactly what they have procured, the amount of training they've been able to go through is non-existent. The leadership of the military have totally failed Nigeria on its own, because most of these allocations have gone into private pockets due to corruption. So, you can blame Jonathan all you want to. At the same point, I'm not saying that most of the ball does not rest on his court. It does. But the military also have its own elements that they should have dealt with. They should have been in a position to procure all of those things as earlier as 2007, 2008, and 9, when they were being budgeted for. They should have had the structures in place. The capacity was not built, and this is why we are where we are today.
What do you make of the stark difference in responses from the international community with the Charlie Hebdo incident in Paris and the Boko Haram violence? There's been a lot of talk on this online, and so we're curious about what your perspective is.
Unfortunately, over the years, you can see the indicators. That's how the West wanted to approach Boko Haram. When Boko Haram started, it took the United States so many years to prescribe Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization. We had a couple of conferences where Johnny Carson and Johnny Campbell, former ambassadors to Nigeria, were also present, and they were really espousing that Boko Haram is a regional issue. My position is that Boko Haram is not a regional issue. Boko Haram was and is still an international organization that's being financed internationally and that's recruiting internationally as well. But they minimize the importance of that. Now, it depends on the translation or how you really look at regionality or its application. If the regionality means that because the West Africans and Nigerians are blacks, that their lives does not matter, then that's another issue. But when you look at the amount of carnage and destruction of what is happening through Boko Haram in Nigeria, you will begin to realize that Boko Haram issue is a much more broader issue than ISIS itself will ever be. And I've been the one going out talking about this because the recruitment is there. There's a lot of porous border. There's a lot of arms flowing into Nigeria. There's a lot of motivation for all other elements to flow into Nigeria. And because Nigeria have not set itself in order, it makes it a lot easier for all these things to be accomplished. Now, if that happens, you have a total of 179 million Nigerians. And throughout the West African countries, Chad, Niger, Cameroon, and all of that, if you have that kind of calamity, it will be a much more broader scope to the international community than ISIS will ever be. And it's about time international community starts looking at that and viewing it with the seriousness that it deserves.
Well, sir, I'd like to thank you for your time this morning, and please come back on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay tuned to Sahara Reporters and Sahara TV for all your latest election coverage.